Om Namo Venkateshaya. Let's understand what happens when Saturn comes to the 12th house of your birth chart. This is actually a difficult but mixed position for Saturn. Now, first of all, this is not an Upchaya Sthana, but this is still a malefic Dusha Sthana, and Saturn, being a cruel planet, will actually try to give some good mixed results over here by sitting in the 12th house of your chart. More importantly, Saturn's only way to decode success in your life is to make a reality check on your visions, on your dreams, on the way you want to achieve things in life, on your ambitions as well. 12th house is naturally owned by Pisces. And so when you have Saturn in the 12th house, it becomes very difficult for you to be a visionary person, to be a dreamer. You are going to be a person who always strongly advocates that dreams means nothing unless one wakes up from it and tries to execute their path in such a way that they are making some movement towards achieving that goal. Goal setting, vision boards, all of this does not work for you. What works for you is hardcore spirituality, hardcore development of a belief system. Because of the 10th aspect to the 9th house, you are actually a lucky person when Saturn is in the 12th house. The problem is that this luck cannot activate without naturally satisfying what 12th house stands for. 12th house is also the Mokshkarak Sthana. This is where Ketu naturally feels comfortable as well. But Saturn is suspicious by nature. So when somebody comes to you and claims that they are a spiritual preacher or they make you follow a certain religion, you will question them. You will become a part of them only after validating something projected to you by your own experiences. For example, somebody comes out and tells a 12th house Saturn person, read this stotra, read this mantra on a daily basis to see some fulfillment. You will not believe them. You will first like to research about it on your own. Then you will try to chant that and make a modification of some sort here and there in form of whatever tangible outcomes you got from your research. And then once you have experienced it, it develops your belief system, which is your wish fulfillment of the 9th house. So your form of spirituality is going to be very rigid at the end of the day, because you are imparting a belief system development only through validation of experiences and not what you read through books or what you hear on face value from spiritual preachers. Saturn in the 12th house also increases your health problems very frequently. You will suffer from stomach gas, constipation, diarrhea, constant Vata problems, air element issues within your body, sometimes respiratory issues, not if Mars is very well placed. Somehow, if Mars is in the 6th house with this Saturn, it actually is good comparatively, despite the mutual aspect to each other. But more importantly, you also see that you are a person who unnecessarily sometimes get physically injured. That means you were cycling, suddenly you fell off the road. You were walking somewhere, suddenly you got hit by an accident. The interesting part is you survive all of this. You are not killed by any of it. And you become very transformed, or you grow, or you become very hardy after such experiences. A Saturn in the 12th house person never advocates crying about their problems. They will rather be silent in their suffering rather than playing victim in front of others. Unlike a Saturn in 11th house or a Saturn in 7th house, you are not going to become a person who likes to play victim in form of others. You are going to be a person who would advocate that I was strong, I am self-reliant, and I can undergo any situation no matter what. Your biggest challenge is your family. Sometimes your family comes as a hindrance to your success, not necessarily in terms of how you interact with them, but rather circumstantially. Let's say, for example, you got a wonderful job opportunity that needed relocation, but unfortunately, due to prior commitments to your family, due to responsibility fulfillment towards your family, you were unable to take that relocation. It is a very interesting thing that Saturn in the 12th house will take the higher moral burden and accept a low paying job if it is coming with the trade off of serving their family, no matter how thankless their family is towards them. That is the beauty about it. And therefore, later on, they sort of separate from their family. These are the set of people who experience many challenges in their higher education. They sometimes attain multiple degrees despite being in a different occupation in which they are working for or what they have compared to studied initially in their life. And eventually, you will also see that such a person is encouraged circumstantially to leave the country. Such a person will see failures from their competition. They are trying to question themselves that I have 2 or 3 higher degrees compared to the other person who is my colleague, and how come both of us are earning same salary? And they are not able to digest it. They are here to realize that their meaning or purpose of life is not going to come out of material gains, no matter how much they chase that. Because the 10th aspect of Saturn to the 9th house tries to show that you are here to become a guide to others. You are here to set as an exemplary example of leadership, struggle, and to prove it to the society that no matter how many setbacks come in one's life, somehow we can survive through it and still grow out of it. And when you realize that, when you make that inculcation of such realization into your day-to-day life, you start validating the circumstances that has happened with you. Why I was not able to capitalize that job opportunity which came. Why am I earning the same salary as somebody who is lesser qualified than me? But keep in mind, knowledge earned with this Saturn placement is never going to go waste. Chances are within the same job, you are going to see a lot more promotion compared to the other person. You are going to bring a fresh perspective which is much more nuanced compared to the other person. You will earn appreciation from your bosses very easily. Saturn in the 12th house makes you your own boss, and your boss will recognize this. They feel that you are much better as an individual contributor. You are very realistic. You are a very good accountant, even if you are not directly related to that profession. You are a person who is able to audit things in a very nuanced fashion. Make a pro and con analysis, do a quick SWOT analysis about the situation, and you present it off to your bosses. You don't want to be the decision maker. You want to be the executor, the driver to that decision making. Saturn in the 12th house makes you earn a lot of money at a later age, especially with the accumulated wealth you see throughout your life. As I mentioned, you are going to make this money only by spending more on your family and others, because this is in your karma. Saturn is in the house of where expenses and losses are attained, and it cannot do injustice to that house, and therefore you will face challenging situations where you see that you are unable to pay your monthly bills very easily initially in life, and you get a reality check from that. It is like taking a note about the life lesson that you have earned. If somebody comes to a Saturn in 12th house person and tries to be philosophical and try to tell them that they should do what they are passionate about, chances are the Saturn in the 12th house person will shun them on their face. They will tell them that no, life is not about being philosophical. Philosophy is for the rich who have already achieved something in their life. When you are not getting that salary credited message on a monthly basis, or when you are unable to make all the catering for expenses towards your family, that is when you realize that it really doesn't matter how you are earning or whether you are still working in the same field as you have studied or not. What really matters in terms of true satisfaction is, are you able to fulfill the responsibilities that you are catering towards people? Are you able to sacrifice in form of service towards people? Are you able to swallow your ego and still move ahead in order to simply make sure that others are feeling comfortable? To the extent that there comes a maturity period in their life where they stop putting themselves ahead of others. This is a problematic scenario because Saturn in the 12th house takes you away from self-love. You become very detached normally. You are a person who would be more interested in remaining in sadhana, who is known to be more closer to the Almighty, who is known to be very brutally honest and very much unhesitant or unfiltered about admitting their mistakes in early stages of life. And this is something which is very powerful. And that is why I said that your wish fulfillment comes through teaching to other people. That is the power of the ninth house, where the 10th aspect of this Saturn lies. And you are a brilliant teacher, trust me, because you teach with your mistakes, your experiences, your multiple interactions with people around you, and that is what really defines truly your strength indeed. At a later point in time in life, Saturn also makes you develop a superiority complex towards your family. You essentially become a very mechanical worker to fulfill their requirements, right? So, what essentially happens is that you slowly start developing a God Savior complex and you start becoming very mechanical about your responsibilities towards the family. Let's say somebody required some money from your family, you didn't want to give it to them. Still, you will take the higher moral burden, give it to them, and then later on, you will try to rub on their faces, see, I helped you when you needed it. So, that is my way of defining success. I know you don't hold me in the highest of respect, and therefore it is important for you to now realize that I helped you with something, and therefore you should have due respect towards me. This is how this superiority complex develop, but do not mistake this complex to be ego. This is about dignity, because they have sacrificed so much to the other person that if they are not being acknowledged by that, a Saturn in the 12th house will stand up and fight for that acknowledgement. It will not sit silently seeking acknowledgement like a ninth house Saturn or a third house Saturn. No. It will fight for what is the right. It will stand up for itself. It will tell that I am not here to be a visionary. I am not here to be the person who is perceived like God or who is perceived like a very noble person. I am here talking hardcore facts, just like an accountant who keeps money, who keeps a check about whether the feelings, whether the money, whether the give and take is being reciprocated in a relationship properly or not. And this is something exclusive to a Saturn in 12th house. It is very good. And essentially, it may come out as selfish to other people, but honestly, you strongly believe in yourself that if taking a stand for yourself comes as selfish to others, in that case scenario, they are not worth it. You feel that people naturally hate you no matter what you do for them, because they have always misunderstood your intentions and they have always tried to generalize you or underestimate you throughout their lives. So there comes a point in time in your life with Saturn in the 12th house that you start realizing that honestly, if somebody is playing a blame game with me, in that case scenario, I am happy to not play victim over here, despite the fact that I have been victimized because I sacrificed for them and they are not ready to acknowledge it. But now I am giving them a reason to hate me. And I am gladly going to play villain in their lives. But I am not going to come back. It is very difficult for a person with Saturn in 12th house to let go of trauma, to let go of worthlessness if it is shown to them by some other person, and they will never come back into your life. Never. They will rather prefer to take a foreign separation from the country just to get away from you, just to get away from that trauma that you caused them in their lives. And this is how powerful Saturn in 12th house is all about. So as I mentioned, right, that Saturn over here gives mixed results. So that is exactly what I'm trying to say. It's very ironical to say, but they move on and at the same time they do not let themselves go on or suffer. So this is how they mature. And this is how they will make the other person realize their worth in their lives as well. Saturn in the 12th house is also going to be the person who will never ever accept people who are going to come and say, do not earn money. Because they have seen stages in life when they never were able to afford certain things, and they have matured to the extent that today, when they are able to afford this for their family, they still remain grounded enough to never cater to those attachments, to cater to those materialistic fulfillments that they could actually attain with their own money and wealth at the moment. This is how strong the desire fulfillment towards the ninth house becomes with Saturn in the 12th house. Because, as I mentioned, right, you are going to become a person who is very rigid about your belief system, and therefore you will also become naturally a splendid teacher. You might be a person who might feel that I am not being paid enough by people around me comparatively, but you bring that nuanced approach to your work that you are respected by others very much. This is a trait that you somehow share similar to Saturn in ninth house. But at the end of the day, unlike a Saturn in ninth house, who will go towards that higher education eventually, you are going to be a person who takes one step ahead and terms higher education as simply a form of learning and not application. And you end up applying whatever higher learning you experience through your spirituality. No matter what the religion, it does not matter over here. Saturn in the ninth house is that person who becomes so dignified, who becomes so self reliant, who silently prefers to suffer. And then you develop a strong belief in Almighty. You tell them that I know I can't see you, but I can experience you. I know you will be hearing me when I am putting certain devotion associated with my prayers, and therefore I am experiencing circumstances that are turning into my favor, but I am unable to explain the how, what, and why behind it whenever I am praying to you, whenever I am coming towards you with devotion. And you try to develop a very strong sense of spirituality in such a way that you feel that you do not need to explain this to others. You can explain very well, but you don't want to. You want to keep it secret. You want to make sure that people explore by themselves. That is not the burden you want to cater to. More importantly, the Saturn in the 12th house will make you feel that there are a lot of unnecessary fear mongering happening throughout your life. People are going to come and make you fearful towards a lot of things. They are going to project their own perspectives about different beliefs onto you, and you are not here to cater to their whimsical and fancies. You are not here to cater to what they are trying to project you. You are here to accept the good parts of what has been projected to you and then somehow relate it back to your biggest challenges, which is fulfilling responsibility, taking care of your own gut health and mental anxiety, and at the same time, the biggest beautiful part about your entire placement, that is devotion. You are going to be a person who learns silently that I have to take a stand about my sacrifices. I have to make sure that people learn about my value, and I will make sure that they learn by moving away from them, by distancing myself away where I am not treated with dignity. And moreover, you will also see that there is a secret protection of Devi's blessing on you with the 10th aspect to the ninth house. You will see when Saturn is in the 12th house, you are naturally inclined to move towards Devi Bhakti. It does not matter what your religion is. Devi Bhakti is not something that is restricted to religion, but rather is an instinct that you develop to value what sacrifice stands for. Just like if you read about Ma Parvati, you will see how much sacrifices she has done to make sure that the universe still stands. And you will see that you are able to relate that to your life in a very beautiful fashion. And you have done a lot of sacrifices as well, and you never questioned whether these sacrifices eventually brought any form of satisfaction back to you or not. You just did it out of the need to fulfill a higher burden, to fulfill a higher responsibility, and you learn to be grounded by it. And therefore, you are protected by Devi in a very beautiful fashion. And therefore, no matter how many physical accidents, problems, struggles you're going to undergo in your life, this idea about realizing what is the true power of sacrifice and taking a stand is will be decoding your life throughout with this placement. More importantly, unfortunately, you will make more enemies than friends in your life. People will also try to harm you. People will try to make conspiracies against you. But things get very interesting if Saturn in the 12th house is accompanied with a malefic placement in the 6th house. You might start earning money out of litigations, court cases. You might lose your parental land and win it back in dispute if you have Saturn in the 12th house. You are not a person who restricts to be a dreamer. You are a person who feels that there is a need to manifest dreams into reality. You will also undergo multiple pilgrimages throughout your life. You will see that trying to search your purpose or seek spirituality in order to decode or validate some of your experiences proves to be very fruitful for you. Also, it shows that you might end up sometimes making some good gains from unethical incomes as well, especially if you have a 6th house malefic associated with it. But keep in mind, because Saturn is in the 12th, it cannot do injustice to the natural karak of 12th house, which is losses. It signifies expenses. It signifies your path towards salvation as well. So in case you ever plan on to make some unethical money, think again about it. Because this is the same lifetime where you will repay it back in form of some personal backlash or other that you might not be even directly able to correlate with the profits that you have made from this unethical income. And therefore, Saturn in the 12th house asks you that are you capable enough to stay stringent in the right path towards channelizing your devotion to such an extent that you start ignoring all the other problems that are occurring in your life and you feel that truly surrendering to the Almighty decodes your destiny. That is what Saturn in the 12th house will make you experience, and more importantly, you will achieve that type of a nirvana. You will not be able to explain this to others, but the maturity of this Saturn in lies to the extent that it stops feeling the need to explain this to others. And you just feel that everybody is on their own journey of discovery, exploration, and everybody should respect my boundaries for the same. So that is how you should treat this Saturn, with a lot of tenderness, with a lot of samarpan, with a lot of surrendering to the Almighty, with the intention to develop a belief system so strong that no matter what comes in your way, you are able to persevere out of it, and your victory lies in survival and not winning. Keep that in mind. Thank you.